So I'm not going to say I'm a little nervous on this one, but requested by Gustav, who requests some of the most ridiculously emotional reactions we've ever done on this channel. And by this channel, I mean my wife, HalfLifeSistah, of course, the merch, HalfLifeSistah.com, and of course, support us on Patreon. Now, this request from longtime patron and supporter of this channel and making some of the greatest requests like Mago de Oz. I can't tell you how many requests that we've done that are emotional. Oceans of Slumber, my goodness, the last one, life-changing stuff. Amazing. He's hit me with this, and I can just see him plotting and planning to destroy me. And I'm almost happy I'm doing this solo because I think this might murder my wife. Listen to what he told me. There's so much to unpack that I don't even know where to start. Like, he's playing mind games with me, man. I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous for this. Pain Remains is the title track off their latest album. We're going to be doing this in 3 parts. Dancing Like Flames, After All I've Done, I'll Disappear, and A Sea of Fire that ends this concept album, okay? I've noticed that you find it important to bring awareness to mental health issues. I think it was on the X Japan reaction that I saw it at first, but yeah, we do it in so many reactions, Jeremy and everything. Any chance we get because of how important it is, you know? If you watch this trilogy not knowing anything about it and without context of the story inside the album, you may well think it's a song about lost love and mourning process not ending well. The mourning process not ending well. Okay, losing love and then the mourning process not ending well. I think I can imagine what that means. So part 1, love song into loss, dealing with the loss into hatred is part 2, and then pure hatred into death, part 3. Now he says that's what you would initially think if you do not understand the context. So he gives me the context. What the album is really about is lucid dreaming and the exploration of infinite. The protagonist starts having lucid dreams and becoming able to manipulate some aspects of this dream world, of his feelings like he's becoming a god in this world. In the song, when he mentions God, he is talking about himself. And for anyone who hasn't had a lucid dream, it's basically you become self-aware within a dream. In my life, I think it's only happened twice. And it is amazing. It is an amazing thing to happen. To be self-aware within a dream is mind-blowing because you literally realize you can do anything you want, and it's almost like a safe space. And damn it if I don't wake up too quickly before anything interesting happens, but man, when it does happen, it is fascinating. The brain is wild. He starts filling this world with people, and that's the thing, you become like Morpheus, you start to be able to control things. He starts filling things in this world with people from his memories, or people based on ideas or idealizations of what he thinks people should be, trying to fill the emptiness of his own life with this world from his own fulfillment. He finds love in this dream world with this idealized person, and he is happy for a while. He realizes that while he is in the world he built, he still feels emptiness, that he can't find true happiness. He is lost and lost purpose. Feeling locked in this purgatory, his loved one was the one thing that was giving him hope, but he faces the fact that he must escape this dream world. He is at the bottom of the barrel, desperate and angry, yet he finally returns to the place where he really came from, our reality. The whole album is awesome, and I really hope you enjoy this slice of it. Cheers. Cheers to you, my friend. You know what that reminds me of? Has anyone seen Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise? That kind of gave me a Vanilla Sky vibe. In the movie, from what I remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, Tom Cruise is in what appears to be reality. It's kind of a Matrix thing going on. Most people don't realize that they were watching a science fiction movie when they saw it. Oh, spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen it and you wanted to, plug your ears right now. But basically, he's a rich person who suffered a trauma and also a disfigurement from what I remember of his face. And he put himself into, it's almost like being like freezing yourself, like your consciousness and whatnot. As a matter of fact, I do think he froze his consciousness. I don't think his physical body actually existed, so I don't think he could come back to the real world. But what happened was his psyche started to crack within the world, and the perfect world that he was trying to live to forget about the trauma from the real world started breaking through. So cracks started showing, people's faces started changing, and for the whole movie you don't know what the hell's going on until the end. You realize that he is in fact in a Matrix-like environment where he had suffered an extreme trauma and he is trying to live his life now within a Matrix. And ultimately he has to decide at the end if he wants to continue. And apparently this is something that the company provides because it hasn't just happened to him, because the human brain is funky like that, where they offer him to go back into the Matrix or to allow himself to be released from the Matrix, because at some point when you realize you're living a lie, perhaps, and some, you know, people are going to choose this to not want to live that lie. Everybody's different, right? But that strangely reminds me of that to some degree. I wonder if that was some sort of inspiration there with the lucid dreaming and everything, where you're basically creating this environment that you want to live versus the real environment, which you were not able to unfortunately handle. Very sad. And I believe we agreed to do, because I know there was a fan video, but we agreed to do the whole video from the band themselves. I hope it's not blocked, but you know, if it is, you can just like play it side by side or something. I don't know. So based on that description, I am prepared this time. I wasn't prepared. I did Wasp earlier, and I was not prepared to have tears. So I was fighting back the tears. I have no intention of fighting back tears here. I'm going to let this completely come in, baby, because I love this kind of stuff. I love, you know, part of mental health, if we're going to be talking about it, is not having a facade that you're okay. You know, you've got to, first of all, allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to feel what you're going to feel. You don't want to pretend. You don't want to put on a front ever when you're talking about mental health. Okay, so I found a version that has the lyrics underneath them, subtitled, so we get to see both at the same time. I don't have to take my eyes off the screen. Oh boy, you ready? Am I ready? Let's go. And get comfortable for this. Make sure I got this nice and loud. Oh, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Come on.
After all of my pain, this fucking world, DC shall disappear.
I thought they were going to save that for the last part. Certainly no surprise that didn't feel like 20 minutes. No surprise there at all. It's like when you're watching a really good TV show or something, it's over before you even know it. Okay. Where do we begin? Music was great, obviously. The through lines between the three to make them sound like one. You know, the coming back of the chorus, both their chorus, you know, the chorus of the song, but also the beautiful actual choir, which I didn't talk about enough in the other reaction that we did to them, to the Hellfire and whatnot. I didn't realize that they were so chorus heavy as a band. After many listens, I realized that. It's interesting. It's almost like To the Hellfire should be the next song in this trilogy, make it a quadrilogy, because at that point he's basically sent himself to hell, right? I guess the first thing I want to say, I mean, do I need to talk about Lorna Shore? No, there. Go see To the Hellfire if you wanted me to gush on the band, and I already love them. It's fine. We all know what Will can do. He's fucking amazing. The whole band's amazing. The video itself, though, what I like about a video like this, the feeling of it, so relatable, I think is still important to understand that it is okay to feel that way. It's a representation of that pain, visualized and sonically enhanced by, you know, these incredibly talented men. I suppose you got plenty of people already reacting to this, and that's fine. I do like to talk about stuff, so if you're gonna stick around with me now, you can stick around. This is where we get into the commentary part, because it's very interesting. Because on the one hand, I appreciate, okay, it's important with mental health to just accept that it's okay to feel like you literally want to burn your fucking house down, okay? On the one sense it is, you know, because the last thing you need someone telling you is that when you've suffered something pretty damn traumatic, for example, losing a loved one, is that everything will be okay, because that's the last thing you want to hear. I guess I do take exception to, after he killed himself, to show him with her kind of happy. This doesn't need to end happy, okay? I don't think whenever you're dealing with suicide, you ever need to show some sort of happy thing with the person who committed suicide, because quite frankly, for those, all of you should know by now, I am an atheist. There is, and you can say it's my opinion, obviously I don't think it's an opinion. If you're not sure, the last thing you should do is not believe, right? Because that's probably a mistake based on the silly stories that you hear. However, there is nothing after, okay? I understand that saying goodbye, you can say goodbye, and I understand that it's a choice that can be made. But I would never want to give anyone the impression that it's somehow a romantic choice, I guess you can say. Certainly not a romantic choice. It's a tough subject because on any given day, it's kind of like, imagine you're in a fight and you're about to win, but you trip and then get knocked out, right? Or you're vastly superior to your opponent. It's a little moment in time, a little stutter step can make all the difference in the world, right? Someone who might be contemplating suicide gets an intervention right at the right moment and then never does it again. You know, they just, at that moment of weakness, they were able to get help. I can't say that anyone should be forced to stay or go, right? Because at the end of the day, we are here purely because we are. There is no purpose or reason to it. And if you're not, and absolutely in any way, shape, or form enjoying it, like, I get that. But that perception can change at any point with some sort of intervention. Okay? Chemical imbalances, can try to be fixed with medication. Life imbalances can be fixed with life. It's just, this is the reality, right? It's everything is perception. And I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but it is perception. Everything is being perceived by you in a particular way, in a particular moment in time. And that can change over time. Those who know me know I suffered loss. When I was a kid, I would stay up awake at night, and I think we've all done this, where first of all, there's always that moment where you come to understand death, right? And that we're all gonna die, right? And then you start to think about your parents dying, right? And life is inconceivable under a circumstance like that. And then it happens to you. And then you realize, well, okay, I am now a different person than I was before. But it doesn't signal the end. It doesn't have to. Love is special. It's special because we make it special. Everything we do, it's a moment it's perceived, right? There are people who fall in love and then fall out of love. They were once in a beautiful love and now they're not. And then there are people who fall in love and then lose that love prematurely, never being able to play it out. You think of these ironies, like had she not died, they might have eventually separated. But because she passed during a moment of deep connection with her, he can't get over it. These are the perceptions in the mind. These are the things that are happening. And they're super complicated. And how do you explain to each and every person who is individually and unique and has their own experiences? And again, this is completely separate from, on top of that, possibly having imbalances in the brain where certain parts just aren't functioning the way they should. And you're hyperfixating or hyperfocusing on something that perhaps the average person can't relate to. You don't come for me for help, of course. I'm just rambling here, right? I'm just giving you my thoughts on the subject. Of course you seek help, okay? You seek help because there's always times in our lives where we don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Collectively, you want to be able to communicate with as many people as you can, because ultimately together we can find pieces of information that we didn't have before and understandings. But separate from, like I said, any kind of chemical imbalance which needs to be medicated, this is a different thing. This is not, when you have a chemical imbalance, it's not a mindset issue. You have to first level out your brain so you can get it to function in a way where you can organize your own thoughts. It's a separate thing that requires separate help, and very much needed so. But the other parts that I'm talking about, which is like the mindset and the perception issue, that starts very young. And we start to develop these things where, for example, when we are brainwashed by religion, we have a foundation based on stories and make-believe that now have become a part of our understanding of the real world, which is very confusing. People wonder why, and I wonder why, because I realize I could be doing tremendous damage to someone who's brainwashed to if they were to ever understand. I speak to religious people all the time, and it would scare the hell out of them to think that to them, it means there's no meaning. So you first have to help them recognize the actual meaning of life, which is to simply exist. And that seems so frivolous, except it's not. We shouldn't be here, except we should, because we are, right? We're an inevitability that if life springs up on a planet, eventually it will evolve to gain some semblance of intelligence. Notice that all animals have some form of intelligence or another. And it slowly develops and increases until something becomes self-aware. It's the same reason, it's the same way we can understand what AI is, right? And it's the same reason we understand what the danger of AI would be if it became self-aware, because it doesn't matter if it's really alive or not. If it thinks it is, that's all that matters. It will want to preserve itself. That is the only purpose of life. It's why every animal's initial instinct is to fight for survival. And humans are no different, except they kind of are. Because we have this layer now of consciousness, which changes the game, yet we still have a lot of our base instincts, which confuses the game. And this is why, like, this kind of, I don't know if you want to even call it therapy, but education of brain function and psychology should be instilled in us when we're young. It shouldn't be like a college course or something where you take psychology and everyone's like, oh, you want an easy degree. No, it's about actually understanding human behavior, because it literally, everything that we do, everything that we are, everything that happens to us is folded in by human behavior. It all starts there. When people get riled up to attack a capital, that's a human pathology going on there. You could break it down, but the people who are being manipulated by it don't understand it or recognize it. And then they get caught up in it. Mob violence, wars. How is it that perfectly normal people can get into a mob and suddenly attack someone? People who have never done it before and have perceived themselves as normal. These are things that must be understood. So if you perceive early on that something has an importance, right? The brain can get used to literally anything. Think about how this current generation is having less sex than the previous generation because how easily accessible adult entertainment is now, right? Back in our day, it was harder. Back in the day before that, it was damn near impossible. The brain adjusts to everything and suddenly becomes desensitized to everything. The idea of falling in love with someone and then not being able to live without them, if you experience that 100 times, as weird as that sounds, you would start to get used to it. It's just particularly painful the first time. What am I saying? Am I saying that that person has no value? Of course not. Like I said, when it happens to me, I was changed forever. I'm not the same person I was before that. My entire perception of life, the way I approached work, I've talked about this in a previous reaction where when I turned 40, something else changed in me, because when my mom died, she died at 40. And when I got to 40, I realized how young it was. And that was extremely sad, because I already knew my mom died young. But to actually now be at that age where she passed, thinking about what it would feel if I passed at this age. And then after that, it almost felt like I'm on time that maybe I don't even deserve. You know what I mean? Because my mom was a beautiful person. For her to die at 40 wasn't fair. But life isn't fair. Another lesson that I learned. Right? Accepting reality for what it is. And for the brutality that it provides. But also the love and the beauty, of course, I have a wife, I have a daughter. If I were to lose them, and sometimes I have these kind of lucid things where I put myself in a reality where that happens. And literally my heart rate goes up, I start to cry. When you kind of like meditate empathy, you can kind of put yourself, like in this lucid dreaming, into that world and that space. And if you stay there long enough, you actually feel like it actually happened. There's this weird switch, and it's absolutely devastating. But I think I do that in a weird preparation of the understanding that when I choose to risk it all for love, which it's always a risk, because you can't lose anything unless you have something to begin with, right? So when you risk it for love, I already come prepared with the possibility of loss, because they go hand in hand, the yin and the yang. You don't choose reality without understanding everything that comes with it. And what do I mean by choose reality? Like I said, I believe that part of why religion is such a strong fundamental thing in our society is because people have trouble choosing reality. People like the pretty parts, but they can't quite handle the ugly parts. So what they do is make stories to make the ugly parts somehow palatable. And I genuinely don't know if that's not okay. Because if that's what it takes to get you through something, I guess I should shut the fuck up and let you go through it, you know? I really get conflicted because on the one hand, I hate how policy and problems and societal issues and, like I said, Palestine, Israel, stuff, like I hate like all of that is so muddied by the religious factor. I hate that. But on the second hand, I don't know if I want to take away someone's ability to recover from trauma or pain. But I don't know if y'all realize this. When I'm talking about this stuff, I'm not talking about you who've already been raised that way, because honestly, I do believe that it's probably too late, because the stuff we develop as children is very hard to get rid of. So if our parents have brainwashed us, then, you know, we simply are stuck in our ways. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Go ahead and continue to believe what you believe. I really just want actually the next generation of parents, even if they themselves are religious, to give their children a fighting chance to just be able to understand the world as it really is, instead of being disappointed later on. Like, why do we lie to our kids about the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and all this other stuff? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with building their fundamental realities early on in life so that they have a genuine perception and are able to handle what life really is. I feel like that would just be generally healthier for society. And I know I'm getting off topic and rambling a little bit. It's what I do. Nothing really matters. Whoever enjoys what I'm saying can enjoy it. It's a free country. One of the reasons I do reactions and I don't do like Vosh style videos or stuff like that is because I feel like whoever is enjoying what I'm saying right now probably already thinks this way. And the person that doesn't like what I'm saying is not going to change their mind. And like I said, I don't even know if I want to change your mind. I don't even know if any of this, again, if any of this is even relevant or matters. I think that maybe all that really matters is whatever gets us through a particular trauma. I would like to think that ending it is not always a viable choice. But as empathetic as I am, I don't think I can genuinely put myself in the headspace of a person who does think that way and to truly understand, because I'm always looking for silver lining, and I don't know how to convey or help someone to help them see silver lining when all they see is black. I'm hoping that professionals do, and I'm hoping that if you do have this mindset, that you do seek that at least as a second opinion. You could always just not agree and continue to do whatever it is you want to do, but to not, for something that permanent, to not at least get a second opinion or at least try, and just to make sure. I mean, you can't regret something once it's done, but you know, I don't want to even say, like, think about the people you're leaving behind, because some people genuinely don't have anyone that they care about leaving behind. That, you know, that's part of the problem, right? It's just that we're given, not to be corny, but we're given a gift of this consciousness, which is, if you like understand astronomy as far back as we can go to now, how much time has passed and how short of a time that is that we've been here, how uniquely special that is, and how much potential we have to just, I don't know, just kind of feel and experience it. Like, I've done something I never thought I could do. Like, I've come to terms with death, and that's something I've struggled with all my life. And as corny as it is, I kind of have Nightwish to thank for, because again, they brought me to who I think was Dawkins who said that, which is, thinking about everyone who's ever existed, like, we're the lucky ones. Because I mean, if you think about every egg and every sperm that's ever been wasted by a human being, like, every single one of those was a potential life, right? And then of course all the premature deaths and everything, and all the, like, just the lottery, right? It's so absurd when you think about the sheer numbers. It's almost hard to like fathom. But when you let some of that information in, you can't help but just to want to be curious as to how this all plays out without you yourself having a hand in your own demise. You know what I mean? Just to be able to enjoy and experience the sheer absurdness of existing. That's my problem. Like, I can't imagine tiring of that. That I can't see myself prematurely ending it for any reason, because even great pain to me is a feeling, and it's a feeling that is somehow so real and so personal and so, like, being happy and being joyous makes you feel alive. But I swear, some of my greatest pain has reflected some of my most self-awareness of being alive. It's the most bizarre thing, It's like, think about the last time you were like really ill, like really sick. I don't know about you, but when I'm really sick, all I could think about is how good it felt when I wasn't sick. You know what I mean? Like, I think about how, man, if I can get through this, like, sometimes my illness is caused by my own dumbass. Like, if I ate something that I shouldn't have ate or something, and it's like, when I get through it, I'm never going to do it again. And of course, you do some of it again. But my point is that when you're like your most sickest is when you realize that you're alive and that you want to get better, and you're thinking about those days. Mindfulness. That's what I was trying to think of. Mindfulness. Because I became aware of this idea of, like, when I'm sick, like, the only thing I'm dreaming about is those days when I just felt good. And now, and this is true, every time I lay down and my nose isn't stuffy and my back, I've had back problems for 20 years, so I've been treating my back. I roll it every single night. I do stretches and things like that. And when my back isn't like bothering me too bad, and I get into the right position, and the temperature and the fan is on, and when everything is kind of level, and again, nothing is ever perfect because I always have some sort of discomfort in my back, but it's like, if it's not like bad, I'm thankful. And when I lay down, I'm like, this is another good night. And how many more good nights can I have? You know what I mean? I want to create as many good days and good nights, because the things that have happened to me in my life has shown me how quickly that can change. And for some of you who are watching this, that has already happened. And for you, I am so sorry. Doing reactions for so many years on my wife's channel, we've become friends with so many people. And, one of our friends has a liver disease. We just did a reaction for him, and, we were talking about him possibly not making it. The doctor's giving him a prognosis, and thankfully he's starting to get better. But there are some people who didn't. There's some people who we know when we started this channel, I remember someone giving us a letter saying, thank you for your reactions. You've been making my day. And we never heard from those people again. And I often wonder whatever happened to them, and I'm hoping they just moved on, and that they didn't succumb to their cancer. But we have an older audience. I know that the demographic, we do have some young people watching as well, but we have an older demographic. So a lot of you already know what I'm talking about, but if there are any younger people watching, the idea of mindfulness, it seems like an easy concept, but to practice it and to get used to it, it allows you to appreciate what our brains just naturally want to take for granted. It's basically all it is. And part of what creates the cynicism and the thoughts when you're just normal minded, again, if you need medication, that's a different thing, but just the thoughts of perhaps being overly stimulated. Everyone has a phone now. If you're overstimulated by media, suddenly everything just doesn't seem special. Back in the day, the breaks were forced upon us because we didn't have access to everything, right? So our brains had time to regress, miss, and then want to reacquire. And now everything is so freely available, always, every time. If you want to see a naked lady, you can. If you want to talk to somebody, you can. If you want to watch a show, you've got 100 streaming channels. There is nothing that's unavailable to you. Suddenly, everything becomes not as special. But that is just a trick of the brain, because we will, if possible, accept everything that is given to us. But you can make a conscious choice to make it special intentionally. I said this the other day because when you were a teenager or when you were a kid and you hit puberty or something, like seeing a naked woman was going to be a big deal, right? Or a naked man or whatever, And then imagine if we just grew up in a world where clothes didn't exist. Nudity wouldn't be a big deal. You understand? Then if nudity wasn't a big deal, and back in the day, tribal cultures, right? How is it that in tribal cultures where everybody was naked or almost naked, they still propagated babies and still had relationships and things like that? Because if you're no longer, if everyone's naked, it's not as big of a turn on to see people naked if you see them naked all the time, right? It ceases to be special if that's all that you see. And I know this is a weird example, but I think it's a relevant example because we all grow up in a modest society, right? And that modesty breeds that specialness, right? And that has been lost to a lot of the younger people because now it's so easy to gain access to nudity that suddenly it just doesn't seem as special. And then, of course, you look at like repressed societies like Muslim countries where if you show an ankle, guys want to go crazy, right? That's an example of the opposite extreme, right? Like there's a lot of rapes going on in areas like that. And maybe if they weren't so repressed and make such a big deal out of it, that wouldn't be as big of a problem. You know what I mean? Well, that and also letting them get away with it, right? Man, I'm saying a lot here. I don't know if it's making sense, but basically what I'm trying to say, to sum this up, because this is going on too long, mindfulness. Take breaks. If you're getting bored, I think about that Green Day song, when masturbation has lost its fun, it's because you're masturbating too much. Take a break. I guarantee you, if you don't masturbate for a month, that first day after you've taken a month off, it's going to be amazing. You understand? I don't know if therapists or anything cover this stuff, but this is valid brain manipulation to make yourself appreciate things. And these are things that now we have to do ourselves because the restrictions that we had artificially are no longer there. So I could understand how people can get cynical and think like nothing matters and everything is just lame and boring. I can get that. I can understand that. And this is why you have to practice those exercises. And the professional will help you practice those exercises. And it's a lot like physical exercise. For those who don't physically exercise, first of all, the effect it has on your brain is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And the number one problem I have when I talk to people who are depressed is that they can't get out of bed, so they don't want to exercise. So it's like you can fix it this way, but because you're this way, you can't even get to that way. So it's one of those things where until you actually do it, you can't appreciate the actual effect. Someone telling you is not going to help you understand. Okay? But I said that to make a point, which was what? I lost my point. God damn it. Anyway, this is what happens when you ramble and you go off on another tangent. Yeah, I completely lost the point. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This has gone on too long. I am not a therapist. I should not be. There's no advice giving here. This is just me and my opinion on how, my understanding of the brain. Okay, I remember. I was saying exercise in the sense that a therapist will give you exercises to do to help you kind of work through your understanding of certain situations. And then I went on to like physical exercise, which also they should be telling you to do. Diet, of course, helps. But again, this is what I'm saying here is not an effort to fix you. What I'm saying here is just the brain has a certain way of working. Okay? And perhaps just first, before you make a rash decision, learn about how your brain might be manipulating you. And then kind of don't let it... What do you do when you feel like you want to save the world, but you know you can't? You make stupid videos on YouTube and you just hope you save one or two? I don't know. Do you even have the hubris to assume that you can save anybody? That's so frustrating. Oh, it's one of the things that I have to compartmentalize and deal with. The thoughts is hard because I just want to reach in through the screen, and if I could just like take it away for you, I would, because that's the thing, is when you're talking about your opinions, when you're talking about it, you're talking about from your own perspective. And then there are people who've gone through some stuff or are going through some stuff right now, and I know several of them already, and it's not so easy to implement anything that I just said because you haven't gone through whatever it is you're actually going through right now and you're experiencing. And when you're actually in it, look at what happened in Turkey. Look how many deaths there were just now. Can you imagine what people are going through? Or can you imagine being trapped? We had a condo collapse in Miami. Just a regular civilian condo that was old. And people got stuck under the rubble. And that was one building. And then now in Turkey you have all of this. And then you have what's happening with the Taliban. You have the starvation that's going on there. That's being caused by us. But we can't uncause it because we can't help the Taliban. We've got this shit going on in Ukraine. Nothing that I said matters to those people. They're in it. They got to get through this shit before they can sit down and even think about anything. You just have to react. I guess I'm talking to the person who is fine and bored, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, who isn't, and maybe it helps. I don't know. Does it help to think about everything I just said? Because obviously that's a pain that's being inflicted on people, but it's also a fight for survival. And, sometimes maybe focusing on the fight for survival can help as opposed to fighting off boredom or loss. There is no one answer, right? There is no one way to deal with this, which is why if you're not feeling any different from someone that you're talking to, if you are getting help, find somebody else because they might not be the right person for you. You know what I mean? Again, don't be afraid of getting a third opinion, fourth opinion. Don't be in a rush. Let's put it that way. To make a permanent decision. You know? I'm sorry for going there. You know, I felt like Gustav gave me permission to do so. So I just kind of, you know, I mean, nothing I'm doing here is scripted. Everything is just coming out of my ass. Things that I just already know from years of thinking about this stuff. I'm sure I've left stuff out. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I want to continue to say. There's no way to cover it all. And, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not doing a commentary show or a political show or anything like that. This is a reaction channel. I get that. But sometimes when you ramble like this, there's like this kernel, like everything else could be useless, but then you get this one kernel of, oh, I didn't think about that before. Let me ponder that myself, and then let me just manipulate it in my own way to see how that makes me feel, you know? So sometimes when you just talk like this, something sticks or something gets through or something is like, oh, well, there, I didn't think about that. So I give it a shot and see what happens, you know? It's at the end of the video, so it's up to you if you're sticking around this long to really listen to any of this stuff, right? And I'm assuming if you are, it might be because something's helping you here. And if it is, then that's good. That's good. I mean, what can we do? I feel like Lorna Shore is staring at me, telling me to end it, to hurry up and wrap this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. This was one of those amazing experiences. And oh, by the way, this is definitely going into Magic tier, because musically, with the choruses and the choirs and everything, also all 3 songs at once, I want to listen to them all together. I never want to listen to this song. This is like the greatest show on earth or anything else. I just want to listen to it from start to end. All 3 of these songs belong together in one shot. So that is how I'm going to keep them. Thank you so much, fellas. Awesome work as always. Love you all. Keep it metal, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.